Hello everyone, it's Hannah and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about calligraphy and giving some tips and tricks for beginners. So I'm just starting out by telling you guys some of the supplies that I use and that I recommend for beginners. So the first pen is this Tombow dual brush pen. I actually started out on this pen myself when I started learning how to do calligraphy, and I just feel like it's very easy for beginners to use, and I would highly recommend it. Very similar to that is the Ecoline brush pen. This one is very similar to the Tombow, but I feel like this one is a bit harder to use, and the ink is also more fluid, so it could be harder to control. This next one is the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen. It comes in two different sizes, and it's pretty thin compared to the last two, and I use this one for pretty much all of my headers in my notes and stuff, and it's also very easy to use. Similar to that is the Pentel brush pen. This one I also use for headers, and I feel like this one compared to the Tombow is a bit more darker in the ink color, but more flexible with the tip. So that first one was the Pentel, and this is the Tombow. So you can see this Tombow is a bit more thin, but it also comes in two different sizes. This next one is the Zig brush pen. I actually don't use this one as much as it is harder to control, but this one is made up of sort of similar to a real paintbrush in a way, which also creates this unevenness. As you can see on the upstrokes, it's not a solid line. So moving on, I also use a series of non-brush pens for calligraphy that work pretty well. My favorite out of these is the Crayola marker, which comes in the normal and super tip size. These pens have a cone-shaped tip, which allows for flexibility when writing calligraphy. These markers are also very cheap for starting out and come in a variety of different colors, which I find is really nice for bullet journaling or just making headers. So the first thing to learn when starting out with calligraphy is up and down strokes. And what I mean by this is when you're bringing the pen up, it should be very thin and light, and on the way down, you should be creating a thicker line by pressing slightly more with the pen. So as you can see here, as I'm going up, it's creating a very thin line, and as I go down and press a bit more into the pen, it's creating a thicker line. So as far as holding the pen, I would recommend holding it just like a normal pen, like not too straight up and not too bent, just kind of whatever works for you and feels right. Another thing to consider is how hard you're pressing when you're going down versus up, to not create rigid lines and visible ink marks, as you can see I'm going to do right here. Once you got a hang of the up and down strokes, try practicing each letter and connecting them to each other. Each letter should kind of just connect to the next letter with a thin upstroke to eventually form words. Another thing to take into account is your style. There are actually many ways of lettering the same letter and different styles, and finding the one that works best for you is also part of the process. Once you have got a hang of the up and down strokes and how each letter should connect, try forming words. And as you can see here, I'm not going too fast, but also not going too slow when writing out a word. So really just trying to connect each letter, and again, finding your own style for different letters and how you form each word. So one of the most important things in improving is obviously practicing a lot and just kind of getting the hang of it. So what I do and recommend is writing out the alphabet every so often and eventually seeing how you improve or what you don't like about a certain letter and trying to improve for the next time. So if you don't have a brush pen at home, you can also just use a normal black pen to create faux calligraphy. So I just started out by writing the word calligraphy in cursive, and now I'm outlining each downstroke in each letter and then coloring it in with the black pen. And as you can see, it's starting to look like more of something that you could do with a brush pen, as each downstroke still has that thickness and each upstroke still has that thinness that you'd get with an ordinary brush pen. So the last thing I'd recommend is just going to find some inspiration on the internet, or for example on Instagram or something. If you just type in like calligraphy or brush calligraphy, there's lots of different styles that you can look at and be inspired by, and also kind of just help you find your style and hopefully give you some ideas. And you can also just go searching on the internet for calligraphy or brush calligraphy, whatever you're looking for, and there's lots of different styles and even like templates you can use to practice your calligraphy. So that was it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and hopefully learned something new, and thank you for watching.